Women in political leadership today, is it getting easier or getting harder?
Easier and harder, really. The numbers are not too good. I mean, there are 23% of parliamentarians in the world are women. And when you look at the governments, they're even fewer and far between. So that is something we want to change, and we've been sort of advocating for that, and hopefully we will see parity soon.
What are the key obstacles to women getting into leadership and government?
I would say that sadly politics still seem and are a man's world, so it's like difficult for women, more difficult than for men. Of course, also plays a role the fact that women are more active in the home and taking care of the kids, so that needs to be changed. And then it's just the scene of politics. I mean, if you look at the pictures from political leaders, like on the world scene, what are you seeing? You're seeing suits and suits and suits and way too few women, so we need to change that as well.
How do you change it?
We need to change it by men making sure that they are as willing as they should be to engaging more women. We need women to say loud and clear that they want power and they want to be involved. And then we need to change the structure of politics. We need to sort of make it, I often say that we need to make it more feminine, if you like. We need to sort of see the nice side of politics as well. Don't just look at it as an act of war, which it sometimes becomes. And that, of course, it's all in our head. We need to see, when we talk about politicians, we need to see a woman as much as we see a middle-aged man that has done this for ages and ages.
That's easy to say, but when we have an electorate which is pretty much 50-50, why aren't women voting for more women?
I mean, because if you look at, for example, the parties, I mean, I come from a country, Iceland, where we have 50-50 in parliament. That's because no real party would try and offer a list of candidates where there aren't as many women as men. It's just something that the electorate thinks is the way to go. So when the parties feel like that, in general terms, it will become more equal. So, I mean, we're often saying, how can we change it and can it be changed? Of course we can. We're doing it around the world, but we're not moving fast enough.
Is it necessary to legislate for this? Did you legislate in Iceland?
We did some legislation, not on quotas, but for example, what helped most in Iceland is the fact that when people or partners have children, men would go as much as the woman to take care of them. So we have maternity leave that allows both of parents to take care of their kids, which again makes equals when it comes to caring about children and home. So when you go out to the workforce, it is as likely that man would leave as a woman will. So that has sort of changed the landslide dramatically.
Does that require some sort of corporate responsibility as well?
It does, of course. I mean, it does require everybody to sort of see the world in that same way, but we sort of felt in Iceland the need to make that sort of a legislative part of our society. And let me tell you that, for example, I mean, in Iceland, we are all really, really proud of having reached that sort of situation, and no sort of serious father in Iceland would not go home to take care of their children when they're newly born. So that has sort of, it's also in your mind. That might be the biggest obstacle, if you like.
How do you see the Trump administration having an influence positively or negatively on the capacity for women to find leadership roles?
I think not only referring to the status in the United States, but referring to the status like around the world, we have sadly been seeing sort of a backlash when it comes to gender equality. I mean, we heard an expression from an MP here from this parliament, like just recently. We're hearing these sort of negative things about how women are seen. I mean, maybe something good will come out of it. Maybe the general public will say this is not what we want. So maybe after a certain backlash we will like move to a better place even. I hope that.
We see this as largely a tabloid exploitation. The member in the parliament here who did this has a previous history and reputation for doing this, but whether he believes it or not, it looks like grandstanding, and the same could be said for President Trump as well. It gets headlines and motivates a certain part of the electorate. Is there a responsibility within the press to report this in a different way?
I mean, you can see, for example, the comment that was made here last week about women, it got a lot of attention. It got like, the media covered it all around the world, really. What that shows is that it makes headlines first, but it also shows that Most of all us feel that this is inappropriate and feel that this is not the right way to go, so there is good and bad about it. But I mean, if you're looking for headlines, these are fairly good. So.
You're here in the European Parliament today. International Women's Day has achieved a lot in terms of media publicity. In real concrete terms, what does International Women's Day achieve?
It has achieved awareness. It makes sure that at one day, at least in the year, we're all talking about it. We're all making sure, we're all measuring where we are, we're all trying to set goals for higher ends and means, if you like. So it does good things. It reminds us, it keeps us on our toes, and that is something that we need in the international spectrum, definitely.
Finally, in terms of the next generation, education and what young people today perceive as being right and fair and expected of them, do you think there's going to be a generational shift in terms of what women achieve?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I mean, I have two young girls, and when I ask them about the women and men, should they both be as involved, for example, in politics, they don't even understand the question. For them, it's just so natural and so obvious that it should be like that. But I mean, we can say that it's both right and just, and it should be, but let's not forget the fact that societies thrive better when women and men have the same opportunities. That's also sort of a factor that we need to look into. So it's just, if people don't go for the right and just thing, just do what is best for your nation, and that is to make sure that the genders have the same opportunity.
One last question, the responsibility of men in this. What do you expect of men in this generation to do, and why should they advance the cause of women in politics?
Because it's best for society, if they really want to sort of see their society thrive. And let's just ask these men, if they are reluctant, let's ask them to look at the world through the eyes of their girls as well as the eyes of their boys. If their girls would say, I feel that women don't have the same opportunity, are they seriously happy with that? I mean, they can go on and debate in politics whether or not it's right or wrong, but do they really want their girl to have that feeling? And majority of girls in the world have that feeling, so they cannot be happy with that.